In victory formation, Mac Jones takes a knee, a backflip behind him from Kendrick Bourne to celebrate a 26-8 win. The 49ers win 3 straight games for the first time since their 3-0 start, and they play all weeks between weeks 1 and 13 and get to 9-4 on the year, 6-2 on the road.
That's how it sounded from Cleveland. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you following a 49er victory, 28 after they go 20 unanswered points. 26-8 the final score. They go 20 unanswered or 19 unanswered after they led it. 7-0 and then trailed 8-7, up 10-8 at the half, and then go on a run there in the second half. Take advantage of a couple of turnovers, a couple of mistakes, and that's something the 49ers have done well now over the last several weeks at taking advantage of what the opposition gives them. The Niners were the more talented team. The first half, a little wonky for them. The wind was a factor, it seemed like, in the throwing game. And as long as they had a couple of score lead, making Shedeur Sanders beat them and getting away from Quinshon Judkins was the success for the Niners in this game. JD, how'd you see it go down, man? A nice win for the Niners as they're 9-4 now into the bye week, 3 consecutive wins.
Yeah, and 3-0 in this easier part of the schedule, which will conclude in the first game after the bye against Tennessee. But they took advantage of 3 short fields in the game, and I think that was the story of the game. The first one off of the 66-yard punt return, which got things going for the Niners by Sky Moore. He continues to be a weapon. Niners able to cash that in for a touchdown on the short field, and then the 2 turnovers that you mentioned, the 49ers able to cash in. The 1 turnover on downs as the Browns go for the 4th and 1 on their own 33, and then the muffed punt in which set up the 3rd short field, and the Niners able to put the game away there. Really a mostly mistake-free football game for the 49ers. I thought Brock Purdy got better as the game went on, and we talked about it in the pregame. Are they going to run it to set up the run or throw it to set up the run? Well, the reality is the Niners threw it a lot, and a key for you in the pregame, I want to give you credit on this, was 3rd down. You said it was your number 1 key, and the 49ers won the game on 3rd down, 11-17 converting, and the Browns go 3 for 11. Niners also mix in a couple 4th down stops in there as well, and that winds up being a big part of the Niners' ability to win this game comfortably. It didn't look at halftime like it was going to be comfortable, but the 49ers made it comfortable in the second half, and it's a big-time credit to them as they now up their record to 9-4 and get the much-needed bye.
Well, and to that end, we talked before the game about the 3rd down situation. I mean, they always say a couple of numbers you look at the end of a game, and it'll tell you the story before you look at the score. The turnover battle and how a team fares on 3rd down, what is their percentage in sustaining some drives? Now, unless a game gets wonky and a defense takes over and has a couple of pick sixes or scoop and scores, obviously that's going to skew some of those numbers. But the 49ers were second best in all of football coming into play today in terms of converting the 3rd down. The Browns were the 3rd worst team in all of football in converting 3rd down at like a 30-something% clip. So if the Niners were to just go at their own rate and try to fill up what it is they do well, it seemed by the nature of those numbers they were going to be able to win the game. Now, something that's been, I think, sort of surprising, and I said this to you, I want to say it was before the Arizona game when Brock returned, and they did have a few turnovers in that game. They've now had 6 takeaways in the last 3 games in the return of Brock Purdy. They've had 1 really good offensive game against Arizona, 1 bad offensive game last week, and still 1 against Carolina, who did get a win today, by the way, against the Rams. Some good defense by Carolina. We'll talk more about that a bit later. And then today, a day where they had to take what the opposition gave them. The offensive line held up and played really well, despite not creating a lot of holes early on, only 9 yards rushing on 6 carries for Christian McCaffrey in the first half. But you said it. It was about playing clean football. It was about taking what they gave them, picking up and executing on 3rd down, which the Niners did really well, I thought, today. And a lot of times we're in 3rd and medium-long situations, 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s. I think there's some people who would criticize the way Kyle managed the first half, but I thought they didn't play their best football and were getting outrun. They were getting outgained, and yet they still had a 10-8 lead. After their longest play of the game is the one that ended the first half before the doink field goal goes in from Matt Gay. It was the 33-yarder to George Kittle. They didn't have a play longer than that all afternoon long, and Brock Purdy basically played flawless football in terms of throwing it away when he needed to. When he got pushed out of the pocket, he made plays on the run. He put it in places where the opposition could not get to it. So while he wasn't super accurate today, he used his legs, extended some plays, and, of course, got that rushing touchdown, which gave them another element there down in the red zone. They've just been, it's hard to find a calling card for this team because they've got 9 wins against, people will look at this and say, well, their resume is not great. I would say they've beaten teams that I thought they should have beaten. They've done it without the best talent necessarily due to some of the losses of some of their best players. But you look at where they are defensively, and that looked like the gaping hole. I don't think they do anything particularly well. They're turning it over more now. They're not getting to the quarterback a ton, but 3 sacks today of Shedeur Sanders. They're a top 10 defense now in points allowed, 17 total points allowed in the last 2 games. They, call them what they are in terms of a porous defense. They're not allowing teams to score points against them. And if the offense can put up 28-30 like they have 2 of the last 3 weeks, we're looking at maybe a dangerous team here down the stretch if they can get wins over Chicago and a win over Seattle.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think that the key now is, and look, the best team that they've beaten during this stretch is still the Carolina team. When that win does look better, given the fact that they beat the Rams
7-6
earlier today. And so there is going to be a test for this version of the 49ers over the last 3 games against the Colts, who are not playing as well as they were, and the Bears in Seattle. We can save that conversation for later. But the one thing that we talked about even after Fred Warner went down a month and a half ago now in Tampa Bay was the fact that there still were enough winnable games on the schedule to where this 49ers team could get into double digits and could be a playoff team. And to their credit, they have gone out and basically won every one of the games against either a middle-of-the-pack team, if you want to consider Carolina that, and bad teams. And you look at the other teams, from the Giants to the Cardinals to the Falcons, to winning today's game against the Browns. And not to say that any of those games were going to be easy, because we cautioned at the time that given the structure of how many 49er players were out due to injury, they could lose any of those games if they did not play well. But for the most part, they've played really well in those games. And, the 49ers defense, they don't get a ton of pressure. They hadn't forced many turnovers until the last 3 weeks, but 6 over a 3-game span is fantastic. I mean, I don't think many teams in the league would, everybody would sign up for that. But they win key moments on 3rd and 4th down, and they've done that this season. When the 49ers got their stop, the turnover on downs in the first half, they were, and I saw Josh Dubow put this out there, 49ers stopped the opponent on 4 of 9 4th and 1s this season,
wow,
which was the 6th best mark in the NFL. And then they wind up getting another one in the second half after the Browns wind up going for it on their own 33. And so the Niners are winning 3rd down. They're winning 4th down even with some of these 4th and shorts, and it's been an opportunistic defense on that front, which has been the reason why they've been able to come out on top in so many of these games. And now you're starting to see some of the overall numbers in terms of the statistics back that up even further. So I just give them a ton of credit for the balanced and controlled way that they've played. This is not a top-heavy team in terms of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they're well coached and they win the big moments, and that's how you win games in the NFL. And they've done it to the tune of now being 9-4 here with 4 games to go after the bye.
808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Would love to hear from the faithful after the Niners win this one in Cleveland 26-8. A couple of big performances by some defensive players in terms of Keon White with a big sack there. You also had 2 huge sacks from Cleve Farrell in helping the 49ers get off the field, not just on 3rd down, but on 4th down, a big one that held up the Browns at 4th and 15. And it was a 4th and long, and then they hit him for a sack. At one point, a 15-yard loss on a sack from Cleve Farrell of Shedeur Sanders. The Niners took advantage of all the short fields, 3 scores on short fields today, including the kick return, the muffed punt, and the fumble that they pick up on the 4th down. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. I want to know, are the faithful trusting the 49er defense more? Do you trust the Niner defense here as they're 9-4, and they'll be a top 10 scoring defense heading into the bye week after Week 13 wraps up? 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners win at 26-8 on the Sports Leader.
Third and goal from the 2. McCaffrey lines up to his left. Trio of receivers out right. Quick handoff. McCaffrey up the middle, trying to fight forward. He's in for a 49ers touchdown. He punches a hole in the dog pound defense and plunges in for 6.
49ers win it in Cleveland. First win in Cleveland since 1984. They win it 26-8 over the Browns. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners moved to 9-4 now. As they didn't do anything like exceptionally well today, except play sharp football for the most part. They executed on big downs on third down. They got off the field on third down. They didn't do a great job of stopping the run. The one long touchdown drive of the game was a really well-called one, I thought, by Cleveland. Their last drive of the first half, they go 10 plays, 90 yards, and a touchdown, and they ran it on 9 consecutive plays to start that drive. The 10th play was a 34-yard touchdown reception by Fannin from Shedeur Sanders that capped the scoring drive. The Niners then get called for a 12-man on the field. Cleve Farrell, by the way, in the postgame show, was talking to Tim Ryan and to Jack Smith and admitted being the 12th man on the field. He said, I just forgot I wasn't on special teams this week because of some of the shortages and where they had him moving around. So he said, I'm good. It's all good. I don't want to give up one extra point. He said, I got my chewing out. I got my yell at, my scream at, and I'm all good. We're ready to move on. And he came back and got a couple of big sacks. But following that drive, I mean, this might have been the most important moment of the game, that the Niners are ready to give the ball back to Cleveland after the half. And I want to talk to you about that in just a second, JD, about the Niners' decision at the beginning of the game. But they end up going, they get the ball back with 39 seconds left. It's their 5th drive of the first half, 39 seconds remaining in the half. Brock throws 2 incompletions to start the drive. Then he hits Ricky Pearsall for a 13-yard gain. He hits Jawan Jennings for a 12-yard gain, then the longest play of the game to this point, and then overall 33 yards for a pass downfield that lands to George Kittle at the 7-yard line. Then Matt Gay doinks it in off the upright for a made field goal to end the first half. That might have been the absolute biggest point of the game, JD. That flipped the momentum. Things were going the Browns' way. They were going to get the ball back after gashing the Niners. They would have been able to continue to run the ball effectively. Ultimately, they come out and they punt it after 5 plays to start the second half, and the Niners run away with it.
Yeah, I thought those 3 throws from Brock Purdy, the couple to Pearsall and then the one to Kittle, were the biggest 3 throws of the game. I thought Brock really settled in from there and was able to do whatever he needed to whenever the 49ers needed him to do it. And, yeah, the game felt a little out of the 49ers' control. I mean, they got manhandled, the 49ers' defense, on that one drive where the Browns went down to make it a 7-6 game, and then because of the penalty, they're able to go for 2, and they convert on the 2. I mean, a 10-play, 90-yard drive. I think the Browns threw it 1 time for the touchdown on the drive, and so I think you look at that, they were in a little bit of trouble there. But to answer and to come up with the third down conversion and then another one to Pearsall and the 33-yarder to Kittle to get points, and, yeah, even if that kick doinks out, and it was not, I mean, my goodness, a 25-yarder in that wind going that direction toward the dog pound end zone there at the stadium in Cleveland. It just, that showed you exactly what people were dealing with in terms of the elements. But no, I thought that was the swing moment of the game for the 49ers to not be trailing and be up at the half. And then, yeah, they get the stop. The 49ers couldn't really move it themselves, but the 49ers end up getting the other, I thought, gift of the game, which was the turnover on downs when the Browns decided to go for it 4th and 1 on their own 33 at that point, and then another big third down conversion after that. And the 2 plays to Kittle, I think, were the most impactful of the entire game. The 14-yarder from Brock to Kittle on third down, which set up the touchdown to put the 49ers up 17-8. And it felt like to me, I don't know about you, but it felt to me once the 49ers got up 17-8 after the Browns had turned it over on downs deep in their own, going for the 4th and 1, it felt like 2 scores was going to be enough. You never know, and the history in Cleveland's been wonky, and the Niners over the years certainly have blown leads in the Shanahan era. But today against that team, to me, it felt like the 17-8, 9-point lead, 2-score game felt like it was going to be enough, and it wound up being more than enough.
Well, I think Cleveland felt like that was desperation. To your point, after the 49ers score that touchdown, it's a Brock Purdy 2-yard rushing touchdown after that 9-play, 32-yard drive in the second half. After following the fumble on 4th down, the Browns go 3 and out. They gain 1 yard. They punt it to the Niners. The Niners then go -1 yard on a 3 and out. and then Cleveland muffs the punt, and the 49ers recover at the Cleveland 18, and it's 17-8 at that point. And I mean, there it tells you everything you need to know. They went for it the drive before, thinking they've got to get some momentum back. And even when they went for it in the first half on their second drive, I thought it was a little risky there on a day where points were at a premium. Or I thought they would be at a premium. Certainly at that point, it's 7-0 Niners. They go for it on 4th and 1. Niners get the stop on 3rd and 3 and on 4th and 1 to stuff Cleveland at the Niner 20-yard line. And then they march back down, and they get actually, they didn't. They ended up punting it back after that. But I thought it was a risky proposition for Cleveland at that point. I wanted to ask you, and people at home or those not paying attention at the beginning of the game might not know, the Niners actually won the toss and chose to receive the kick. Is this the first time, Kyle Shanahan, and you might know better than me, just off the top of my head, is it the first time that he's won the toss and chose to receive since the overtime in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, definitely since the overtime in the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if he had done it at any other point in the regular season, but it was surprising. And you know what it made me think of? It made me think of what the Bears did on Friday. And my initial text to somebody was, did Kyle watch Ben Johnson take the ball so he could pick the direction in the second half?
Right.
If you remember in the second half of the Philly-Chicago game, Bears took the ball, which means that the Eagles would have to choose to take the ball in the second half, which means the Niners get the choice of direction, so they could go with the wind in the fourth quarter should it come down to that. So it felt to me as much as anything. And you could make the case, hey, you want to play defense first, get that initial stop. I think a big part of this game was the Niners almost waiting for the Browns to brown at different points, and the Browns did brown in a lot of these instances with the muff punt and the failure to convert on the fourth down and going for it deep in their own territory, all of that. But it was a little peculiar, honestly, to have – and I know Tim Kawakami had asked him about it this last week during one of the Shanahan press conferences. Hey, would you ever consider taking the ball? Basically because of the vulnerabilities on defense and wanting to score and get the lead. I think it was as much about the wind and being able to, take the ball, try to control the game with the offense early, but also make sure that in a game, if it was close, you'd want to have the wind at your back in the fourth quarter, and you'd be able to do it. So I didn't really have a problem with it.
I just thought it was an interesting game plan. Some more gamesmanship there, yeah.
Yeah, it was just different, and he thought it through, and it made me think, hey, did he think of, in watching the game against Philadelphia that the Bears just had and knowing that it was similar conditions. But, yeah, strange start with the Niners receiving the kickoff. They were throwing the ball in the wind. They run the trick play early with the halfback option. Brock Purdy missed a wide-open touchdown throw, but the 49ers were able to get on the board first, thanks in large part to Sky Moore, man. Sky Moore is a weapon, and we're talking about this every week now. Kickoff, kick, punt return. I mean, he's a weapon, and he helped set up that first touchdown, but interesting that you see the 49ers take the ball. I don't think it's something under normal conditions that Kyle Shanahan will do with regularity, but I think it was probably, and I'm interested to hear what he said after the game, was probably as much about wanting to have the wind advantage as it was wanting to have the possession early on in the game.
Each of the last 3 weeks, Sky Moore has been big, and that the second time in the last 3 weeks that he set up a short Christian McCaffrey rushing touchdown, just like he did 2 weeks ago to open the game with that 98-yard return in Arizona. The drive ended in a 1-yard touchdown run. So did today's. We'll make him the difference maker of the game, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at BenjaminMoore.com. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Fozzie and Brian, I see you waiting on the line. We'll get to your thoughts on the Niner win. Question of the day is, are you starting to trust the 49er defense? They'll be a top 10 scoring defense following the wrap-up of Week 13 tomorrow night. And we should make note, they have been without Nick Bosa since the beginning of Week 3. Like, it was early in the year. So we can talk about the loss of Fred Warner, which happened, of course, later in the season. But if we're talking about the two big losses, it's not like they had Bosa for 10 weeks and then they're tacking this on. The scoring defense has been very good all season long, if there is one calling card. We'll talk more about that. Fozzie and Brian, hang on the line. We'll get to your calls at 808 KNBR. The Niners beat the Cleveland Browns for the first time in Cleveland since 1984, 26-8 on the Sports Leader.
when you have a week 14 bye and it's like week 11 or 12 and you're sitting there like, hey, we got 3 more games. Like, you don't want to look ahead, but at the same time, it's like, we can do it. Like, we can just lock in for 3 games, and then everyone's going to get that little bit of time off. And I think it'll be great for everybody. Every single person. I mean, like, when you're this part of the season, if you're 100% healthy, then you're probably not playing the game the right way. You're not playing with enough effort. You're not playing with enough grit. So I think everybody will just take a little bit of time, rest up, work out a little bit, and just be ready to roll and hit the ground running versus the Titans.
There you go. Niners reached the bye at 9-4. I mean, best possible scenario, considering I think where they were. I mean, best possible scenario, I guess, would be 13-0, but 9-4 after some of the injuries they sustained, not having their starting quarterback for a number of weeks in the early part of the season. Show me any other team that could have survived this. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is doing a brilliant job this year, as is Robert Saleh, who's lost his starting middle linebacker, his backup Mike middle linebacker, and at one point today was without Curtis Robinson, who left the field briefly with an injury before he returned. They were going to go to Jalen Graham in like his second game in uniform for the Niners, elevated from the practice squad. They even signed Eric Kendricks earlier this week, and they tried to get last offseason for some depth and support there, I think, out of the bye week. But 3 consecutive wins, and they could be staring down 4 against the Tennessee Titans, a game I think everybody believes they should win when they come out of the bye week. Let's go out to the phone lines at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go to Fozzie. Fozzie's been waiting in the East Bay. Fozzie, the defense, 9 points allowed last week, 8 this week. They'll be a top 10 scoring defense at the end of this week. How you feeling about them?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, guys. AC, what's up? JD,
What's up, bro?
my bro. Good to hear you, man. Look, man, as long as Robert Saleh is running this defense, I trust the defense, man. They've been playing lights out. I like what the defensive line was doing today. They got home a few times, which was great to see. They got a few sacks now over the last few games, which is great to see. But my biggest thing is the injuries, man. Can we keep these middle linebackers healthy? I mean, you just said it. We might be seeing Eric Kendricks next week calling plays for us on the defensive side if it keeps going like this. But overall, great game. I mean, the Browns they're pretty good in my book. So Robert Saleh did his job. And also, real quick, let's give the MVP to CMC this year. I mean, we saw what Matthew Stafford did today. He had a bad game. CMC's been holding it down all year. This dude is a monster. I know it's a quarterback award, but let's give it to him this year. Cheers, boys.
Appreciate the call, Fozzie. It is interesting because, like, at the end of the year, if McCaffrey's 1,000, like, there's maybe no more valuable one player to their team this year than McCaffrey, considering what the injuries are the Niners have faced. He won't win the MVP, and he likely won't win Offensive Player of the Year. That's probably going to go to, like, Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jonathan Taylor, somebody like that. He's put up huge and massive numbers this year, but I don't know where the Niners are with, a very good running back, save a Hall of Famer like McCaffrey.
Well, we've seen it where they are when they don't have them.
Yeah.
They're not a good football team.
6-11 team like last year. Yeah.
And it even goes back to when they acquired him. I mean, they were 3-3, basically 3-4 when they acquired him, and then they won 10 straight games in 2022, plus a couple of playoff games to get to the NFC Championship game before they ended up getting beat in Philly on the Brock Purdy injury. And we've also seen what it just opens up. I mean, they're a different red zone team with Christian McCaffrey back in the mix. They score in the red zone with McCaffrey. I mean, that's another thing, that they struggled with in the time before they acquired him, and they struggled with in not having him last season for the bulk of the season. And so, I mean, I think you look at it, I mean, he's just a game changer in every form for this 49ers team, and makes all the difference in the world to the game plan, to the scheme, to clearing out space for others to operate. It's just somebody that Kyle Shanahan trusts as the foundational focal point of his offense. I mean, he means everything, and you're right, he probably won't win the MVP. Not even probably. I mean, he won't. But the way he can get himself into the conversation, I think, Copes, would be for the Niners to come back and beat Tennessee and then rattle off, run the table the rest of the way, get to 13-4, maybe win the division. And then I think you'd start to see the last maybe 2 weeks of the season, his name get a little bit more consideration. If they end up 11-6, 10-7, that's probably not going to happen. But if they end up
they run the
13-4, 12 yeah, they end up 13-4. There'd be a lot of conversation about it, I think, going into those final 2 weeks of the year against the Bears and Seahawks in what'll prove to be two pretty big games on the schedule league wide.
Well, as it stands right now, the Bears are the number one seed. When we exit week 13 here, the Bears will hold the number one seed in the NFC. But as Sean McVay said last week, I don't remember who the number one team was with 6 weeks to play last year. Do you? So he wasn't all that concerned about it. There's work to do and a lot of football left. Let's go out to Brian. Brian's in Rohnert Park. What's going on, Brian? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm totally relieved today rather than happy. The stars were aligned for a Cleveland win with, Niners playing Monday, traveling east, the weather, Cleveland feeling pretty good about themselves after beating the Raiders. And I thought, it's going to be one of those ugly games that we're just going to have a couple bonehead plays. Cleveland's going to walk away with a win. And so feeling really relieved right now and enjoying the fact we have Robert Saleh because he's probably going to get a head coaching job somewhere else next year, but let's enjoy him while we have him.
Appreciate the call, Brian. Thanks so much. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens with Robert Saleh. But as I said at the start of this year, if there's any guys familiar with the organization and proven in rebuilding a defense, I mean, I don't know that I'd rather have almost anybody else at the helm than Saleh right now, considering the vacancies the Niners have had in the defense this year.
Absolutely. And by the way, did you catch Kyle Shanahan and Jim Schwartz having a little chat at the end of the game? 49ers get the win. Jim Schwartz is talking to Kyle. They were having it seemed like a pretty lengthy conversation, at least as far as those come across the field, say what's up. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but the first thought that ran through my head in that moment is Schwartz saying to Kyle, "Hey, I'll come work for you, bro. Get me the hell out of here." After Saleh winds up dipping to go get another head coaching job. You love my defense forever. Been tough on you. You got the better of me today. Come take me out of the mistake by the lake and bring me to the Bay, bro. I'll run that defense when Saleh goes and coaches the Giants or whoever the heck it winds up being.
I think we'd be gushing if that were the case. If, in fact, Robert Saleh did leave this offseason and the Niners were able to land a guy like that, I think we'd all be – Jim Schwartz, I think we'd all be thrilled about that. We should also add here now Kyle 2-8 in his career as a head coach or in going head-to-head with Jim Schwartz when he is the coordinator or the head coach on the other side. I guess it was only a coordinator at this point. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The 49ers going to win 26-8 over the Cleveland Browns. They move to 9-4 as they head into the bye week. I think you could actually read Kyle Shanahan's lips when he was talking to Jim Schwartz. I think what he said was, "Come to death row," as soon as Robert Saleh is out of here. When we come on back, we'll catch up with our guy Larry Krueger, Niners Nightly in the Krug Show. He'll join us, talk about what he saw. He said the Niners got to stop Quinshon Judkins. They didn't really, but they did enough to avoid seeing him run all over them in the second half. More to come as the Niners get the win. They're 9-4 on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I think, for us, it's just about one day at a time right now. Just rest up, recover, and, come back. When we come back for this next game, just taking it one day at a time like we have. But I love our character. I love our urgency, and I like where we're at.
That's Christian McCaffrey talking about where the 49ers are after their 26-8 victory over Cleveland, where for the third week in a row, they've taken advantage of mistakes. The defense has showed up. I think the thing that stands out to me is they're going to have a top 10 scoring defense when week 13 is all over after 9 points allowed last week and 8 this week. Here to talk about it all, Larry Krueger, The Krug Show, also Niners Nightly weeknight 6 to 7 here on The Sports Leader. Krug, you mentioned to us before the game that special teams would be a factor for the third straight week now. Sky Moore making it happen. A 66-yard return sets the Niners up for their first score, and they didn't look back.
Yeah, no, I mean, the special teams, we all have to kind of recalibrate our 49er fandom and remember that this isn't, this isn't last year or the year before that special teams unit. I mean, Boyer is turning this thing around. They got kickers, they've got a punter, they've got coverage units, they've got Sky Moore, and yeah, I thought that Sky Moore 66-yarder was exactly what the doctor ordered, right? Because now you're starting your drive on the 16-yard line, and Niners didn't look back. I thought the 49ers just played a cleaner game. There was far fewer mistakes, and that mistakes will get you beat. We talk about make a play, but a big part about being a good football team is avoiding negative plays, and the Niners were the better team at doing that today.
Real quick, just to jump in on that note, because GD was talking about this, them being a clean team, and Tim said something to me about it during the break. The Niners coming into the game were the second least penalized team in football per game, behind only the Rams. So there you go.
It's great to hear. And, we're seeing the 49ers special teams unit improve. Brock Purdy took care of the football. He came out there with something to prove today. I don't know if I heard this from you guys or if I heard it somewhere else, but did Brock supposedly address the team today and said that he, needed to be better and would be better and promised to be better? I mean, he's a great leader, whether you like him or not, whether you believe in him or not. I can just tell you from being in that room, the guys believe in him. Whatever he says, whatever he, says to them or on the field or in the huddle, there's a belief on both sides of the ball in that guy. And I thought he was a big part of his game today was his leadership that he showed and how well he took care of the ball.
Two guys I wanted to ask you about on the defensive side, because the 49ers defense continues to not overwhelm or be spectacular, but they win the key downs. They're winning on third down. They're winning on fourth down. The turnovers have come here with 2 in each of the last 3 games. But, Krug, where would this team be without a couple of guys that they picked up in season? Cleveland Farrell, who was a big factor today, and Keon White has also been a factor. 2 under-the-radar kind of moves when everybody was begging the Niners to make moves. But those 2 guys have been pretty big for the stabilization of the defense here after sustaining so many injuries, including Bosa's and Fred Warner's.
Yeah, great point by you. I mean, Clee Farrell is, when maybe it was right when they lost Bosa, whatever week that was, I did the deep dive and looked at everybody's practice squad, and I'm trying to unearth any possible decent pass rusher that might be buried under a stone or something. And I saw that he was sitting on Washington's practice squad. And I thought, well, he's not much of a rusher. He's much better against the run, but you know what? He's kind of a dog. And if he's in shape and he's motivated, that would be an interesting name. But not knowing if he'd be in shape or motivated. But man, the first practice that he had in a Niner uniform, I remember sitting there saying to one of the guys, one of the other media people, I'm like, that is not what a guy who's on the practice squad and hasn't played all year is supposed to look like. This guy looks really, really good. Now, maybe it's just one practice, or maybe he's actually in great shape and motivated and ready to roll. And that's what we're seeing. He's in great shape. He's motivated. He's ready to roll. I thought he was great today. And Keon White was exactly the piece that we needed John Lynch to go after. Not some guy who's 3 years past his prime. Not some guy with a bad attitude. Devondre Campbell, thank you. You need to find a guy that just was out there, gettable, low price tag, and for whatever reason just didn't fit the team he was on. And they found a guy who's not old, who's actually young, pretty athletic, and he's just a perfect scheme fit for the wide nine. And he was an ill fit for the 3-4. He's not an outside backer. He's not a down defensive lineman. And he's been great. He's been absolutely great. So you're totally right. Those two guys have given this defense a little bit of a shot in the arm. I mean, where would they be without him? Where would they be?
Talking to Larry Krueger here. Niners are 9-4. Krueger, it's incredible where they are considering the pieces they've lost, and then some they've gotten back. But it's several games without Brock, without Ricky Pearsall. We just talked, of course, about Bosa and Fred Warner. Where do the Niners fix it? You and I have talked about how open it seems like the NFC is this year. Hell, the Rams just lost to Carolina today, which could open the door. The Niners still a half game back of the Rams, but they control a lot of their destiny here with a game against the Bears still down the stretch and Seattle. They could need some help against the Rams or to try to catch the Rams, but they could own some of these tie breaks here in terms of controlling their own destiny. Where do they fit in the wide open pantheon that is the NFC right now?
Copes, I don't want to get too excited, but I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
The hottest team is Dallas. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. The best team, in my opinion, might be Detroit. They may not make the playoffs. So then it's like, what do you got left? You got Darnold in Seattle. He throws tons of picks and is the most unclutch guy there is.
He just went into the blue tent, by the way, too. I was watching.
You got the Packers, who have a weird vibe. I mean, I don't know. There's a weird vibe around the Packers, and they're not as good a team as they were early in the year. You've got Tampa, who's decimated by injuries. You got the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is not taking any shots down the field. He's afraid to put the ball in harm's way. They can't run the ball. They don't look very good.
They can't score.
Their run defense just got gashed. Then you got the Rams, and they just lost at Carolina, and Stafford is old. And December is cruel to 35-year-old quarterbacks, and he's 38. So, and then you got the red hot Bears, but they've never done it before. And they're really, really maybe a year ahead of schedule. So I think this is doable. This is absolutely doable. The 49ers can get into the NFC playoffs, and the 49ers can go to Super Bowl 60 at Levi's. It's doable. It's absolutely doable. It's going to take Brock to take good care of the football. It's going to take the defense to continue to improve. It's going to take the special teams to continue to improve. And they're going to have to get a turnover or two. But guess what? It's the NFL, and teams get a turnover or two. It happens quite a bit. So, plus, the Niners, I think, also kind of feel the momentum of having everybody kind of given up on them when they lose Bosa and they lost Warner. And I think as they go further and get a little bit better and this thing starts to take shape, I think you're going to see that the Niners have some serious confidence and swagger that these other teams don't have. And then, let's be honest, if it gets into a huge playoff game, Niners-Bears, who are you going to put your money on? The upstart Bears with Caleb, or a Niner team where every guy on the roster has been to a Super Bowl and the coach has been to multiple Super Bowls, and they're just they're really motivated, and I this might be the year. Who knows?
Well, it's interesting because the 49ers are making me rethink it, because 3-4 weeks ago, I would have thought that the gap was too much for where the 49ers were at. Not that they couldn't make the playoffs. As you know, we talked about it a lot. I still thought there was very much a path, and the Niners have gone 5 for 5, basically, in the games that I would have thought they would have had to have won since Fred Warner went down to be able to make the playoffs. But if you look at everybody, and I won't run through every team as you just did, but I think you could make the case that all of those teams, with maybe the exception of the Bears, are worse than you would have expected them to be, or worse than maybe you thought they were a month ago, which bodes well for the Niners, who are gaining momentum. The only thing I would ask you, Krug, on that note, as it relates to the Niners becoming contenders, the teams that they've beaten, Atlanta, Giants, Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, and I know Carolina beat the Rams today, those are the teams they've beaten. All teams that I think, bad teams, or Carolina's a pretty mid team. Depending upon the week you get them, they can be bad. They've lost to Tampa, Houston, and the Rams. Nobody's playing better in the AFC really than Houston in terms of that defense. The Rams are excellent. Two potentially fatal flaws for the Niners: inability to stop the run, didn't do it today, and the lack of a pass rush, which allows even pedestrian quarterbacks to be able to get comfortable and make plays Where are you on those two flaws and the notion that the Niners really, since Warner went down, have not beaten anybody good? They're going to get chances to prove it. Indy, Chicago, Seattle, the three best teams they'll play since they've lost all these guys due to injury. But what would you say to those two things?
Yeah, they did beat the Rams and Seahawks, and they beat them on the road.
When they had their guys, though, they did. They didn't have Bosa
Right.
the second time, or the first game against the Rams, rather. But
Right.
that was. I feel like that was still a different iteration of this team than the one they have now.
They're not going to be favored in these games. They're not going to get to the playoffs and be favored. They're not going to have home field. There's not. It's not going to. But they are a pretty resilient team. And man, Brock Purdy. You got two pretty good quarterbacks as far as competitors, and you got a football team that's got a lot of experience, and the moment won't be too big. But you're right. The most disappointing part of today was Quinshon Judkins going for 7 yards on first down. Dylan Sampson going for 8 yards on one first down. So they're going to have to do better against the run for sure. And I don't know if they, maybe they get Bethune back. Maybe somehow they get a little bit better. It's a young defense. But yeah, I think, you're right. They're going to have to, they today it was good enough, but Shador's has started 3 games. If they get in against Stafford, something tells me it's going to be quite a bit different. So, yeah, that's what kind of still makes you think that the 49ers are a bit of a long shot. They're not going to be anybody's favorite. But it's the way you play the day you play. And I'll say this. I think the 49ers have a chance to continue winning and just go right on through and run the table. Now, they're going to have to beat Indy and Indy. They're going to have to beat they're going to have to beat Seattle. They've got 3 tough games there at the end. The Bears are probably going to be the toughest game the way they're playing right now. But they're all winnable games. They're all I don't think the 49ers are going to get blown out in those games. If they can stop Jonathan Taylor, they got a shot. If they can stop the Bears running attack, they got a shot. But as you said, they're not the team that they were early. And it's going to have to be, they're going to have to rise to the occasion, JD. They're going to have to play maybe a little bit over their skis for maybe a half or two in this playoff run. But it's definitely a possibility. It could happen.
Larry Krueger, the voice you hear, weeknight 6 to 7 right here on the Sports Leader with Niners Nightly. Krug, nice win for the Niners. They're 9-4 into the bye week. We'll talk to you this week, dude.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great night.
Good deal there. The great Larry Krueger. We do it with him every pre- and post-game here on the Sports Leader. Before we get out here, let's get to the injury report. The injury report is, of course, sponsored by Habas Law. They'll fight to make it right. Visit habaslaw.com. The injuries I've got here, JD, and tell me if I'm missing anything on your mark or on your based on anything you noticed. Nick Martin left the game in the first quarter after a kickoff to be evaluated for a concussion. He did not return to the game. Curtis Robinson went down in the second quarter, walked off under his own power, and then re-entered the game on the same drive. So he stayed in the game. Ben Bartz left in the third quarter with a foot injury. He was ruled out. Kyle Juszczyk in the fourth quarter went to the locker room citing ribs, and I don't believe he returned. Is that correct?
He did not return, and Spencer Burford came in at left guard for Barch, and Martin was evaluated for a concussion and deemed to be in the concussion protocol now, so he did not return and will be in the concussion protocol. And that's what I had as well.
There you go. So that's your injury report for today's game. We'll find out more, I guess, from Kyle Shanahan on his conference call tomorrow. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Krug was bullish, and I'm sort of feeling that way too. JD, you said you sort of have to recalibrate, think about what the Niners are capable of here based on an NFC that appears to be wide open. The Rams only a half game up on the Niners now. They do have a game in hand. And the Niners do. They're one back in the loss column, and they'll make that game up next week during the Niner bye. We can talk more about the NFC landscape coming up as the Niners get a win for the first time in Cleveland since 1984, 26-8. More to come. 808 KNBR on the Sports Leader.
They did a hell of a job. And that was a trenches game, and it wasn't pretty. I got to, hope we want some more explosives, and that part's on me. But they did a hell of a job. That's a really good defense, like I said, and for them to come out and for us to maintain possession on some of those long drives was big. And again, just a complete football win. But the offensive linemen, they work so hard, continuing to open up lanes. So it's just up to us backs to hit it.
That's Christian McCaffrey there talking about the lanes the offensive line opened up. By the way, 1 sack allowed this week. Was Brock hit last week? Was it 1 sack last week? Is it 2 sacks in the last 2 weeks, JD? Am I right on that?
Yeah, they're doing a really nice job. The last few weeks, and so often the offensive line has been a maligned part of this squad during this winning streak and even a little bit beyond. It really has not been something. You got to go all the way back to the Texans game, I think, to where it was really a problem at the end of October with that Texans defense. So impressive stuff for the 49ers offensive line over these last handful of weeks. It's something we always talk about, it feels like, when they lose and even sometimes when they win, but it hasn't been the case here over the course of the last month plus, really.
49ers get the win 26-8 over the Cleveland Browns. Let's get you a player of the game sponsored by Dignity Health, the official healthcare partner of the San Francisco 49ers. Excuse me, that's not the correct sponsor. The player of the game is sponsored by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. That was the play of the game versus player of the game. The player of the game. Who are you going with today? JD, is yours.
I'm going to go with George Kittle as the player of the game. I mean, Brock made the throws, but Kittle made the catches. I think the two biggest catches of the game, the one right before halftime, the 33-yarder, that was huge. And then the other third down conversion, Purdy hitting Kittle with the 49ers up 10-8, the 14-yarder that set up first and goal. So basically two catches that set up points for the 49ers. The biggest 10 points of the game, I think, when the Niners went from down 8-7 to up 17-8, and the rest was kind of history. And so George Kittle, 4 catches, 67 yards, no touchdowns. You could say Purdy made the throws, but Kittle got open, and especially hanging on to that first one right before halftime as the ball got knocked out there at the end. Big-time day from a big-time player in George Kittle.
33-yard grab there right before the end of the first half that set up the 25-yard doink field goal by Matt Gay that put the Niners back on top. By the way, when they trailed 8-7, that was the first time they trailed in 3 weeks. Hadn't trailed since the game against the Rams. So it had been 3 weeks since the Niners had found themselves behind in the game, and it did not last long. It was fewer than 35 seconds of game clock that they were behind before they came back, took the lead, and then did not look back, shutting out the Cleveland Browns in the second half. I'm going to go with Clelin Ferrell, who, as Larry just talked about, was sitting on the Washington practice squad, was signed 4 weeks ago. In 4 games now, he's got 4 sacks. He's tied for the team lead with Bryce Huff, who's gone quiet in the last few weeks. But we talked before the game that entering today's game, Nick Bosa was still tied for second on the team with 2 sacks, and he hasn't played since week 3 in the first quarter against the Arizona Cardinals. I guess we should make note, he's still tied for second on the team with 2 sacks, considering now he would have been tied for third, but now that both now Keon White may have 3. I think he's up to 3 now, so maybe Nick Bosa's tied for third on the team. Bryce Huff's got 4 now, and Clelin Ferrell's got 4.
Well, and if you told me that anyone on the 49ers today was going to have more sacks than Myles Garrett, I wouldn't have
scoffed at that.
And would have lost the bet. But Clelin Ferrell ends up with a 2-sack game. And again, where would they be? Krug said it, and we've talked about it a lot. Where would they be without Clelin Ferrell? I know high-profile names were looking to be acquired by the fan base at the deadline, but it's not like the 49ers did nothing in plucking Clelin Ferrell away from the Commanders and also plucking Keon White away in a trade, a week or so before
from New England
trade deadline with the Patriots. So good stuff there, and a couple of guys that have paid dividends. That's a good pick, Clelin Ferrell. I like that pick.
Yeah, I'm going with Clelin Ferrell. A nice pick, that a bit. Also, just a tip of the cap to the offensive line there, right? As they allowed only 1 sack to Myles Garrett, who's, by the way, up to 19 on the season, and they're 3-9 now. So he's got 5 games left to chase down 3 sacks. Is that right? 3.5 sacks will put him at the all-time record, the single season record.
Correct. Yeah, 22.5 is what he's got to get to.
He might do that next week.
He's going to get it.
He might get that next week, dude. He might get a 4-sack game next week. We'll take a quick break. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. I want to get JD's thoughts on what this Niner team is capable of after they moved to 9-4. We look at the should-win games. I mean, the Colts are looking like a little bit softer of an opponent than we thought they might have been after another loss today at the hands of the Houston Texans. A really tough defense. The Niners defense more porous, and it's going to be all about stopping Jonathan Taylor as they still got gashed today in the first half by Quinshon Judkins. Though they get a win, they're 9-4. The Niners beat Cleveland in Cleveland 26-8. More to come on the Sports Leader.
Fourth down 11. Thomas Morstead on to punt. Puts his right foot into it. It wobbles its way end over end to the 15. It's muffed! The Niners have it at the 15. Along the left numbers, Laverdan couldn't secure, and the Niners come up with the football.
One of the many mistakes today by the Cleveland Browns that the Niners took advantage of. A muffed punt after the 49ers had a 3-and-out where they lost a yard on the drive. They end up recovering the ball and taking over at the Cleveland 18-yard line or the 16-yard line, and then they punch it in for another touchdown. That one to Juwan Jennings, a 7-yard grab. Juwan Jennings, by the way, tip of the cap to him. He had 3 touchdowns in the 4 games played this month. He's starting to get more healthy, and he's going to get some time off. This can only benefit the Niners here with 4 to play at 9-4. What you got, JD?
I just had a question for you on Juwan Jennings, because this was another one of those debates in the many JD group chats that are going on throughout the course of these games. Are we sure Juwan Jennings isn't coming back next year?
No,
I know the situation now with Ayuk.
I think it's more on
Jennings
the table.
Certainly wants a raise. Like, what do you think of that?
Well, I think what will happen here, and we'll see how Juwan Jennings feels about it. I get the impression he likes being a 49er. I get the impression that his holdout or hold in, whatever it was at the start of the year when he wanted another contract, thought it was ill-timed. It went the right direction, though. He got more incentive money where if he plays and he performs, he's going to get paid. They just have different plans for him, right? He benefited last year from being the lone mouth to feed. I sort of look at like the year that Kittle set the tight end receiving record with Nick Mullins. It was set up for him to do so, being that he was like the number one receiver there. They had Debo at the time, but he was like the best guy there in terms of downfield passing. He was the number one target, and he was constantly schemed open. So Juwan benefited from being like the lone mouth to feed in the offense last season. So I don't think the Niners ever viewed him as a guy that was going to be a 1,000-yard guy year to year. They view him as a very important piece, a big-time slot receiver, a clutch third down guy. But because of what's gone on with Ayuk, and Ayuk, you have to view his hold-in differently now, because by all accounts, he doesn't want to be here. And seemingly probably didn't want to be here when he agreed to the deal last year, and maybe thought, hey, after a year we'll get out of this. The injury has changed a whole lot of that. I think the Niners would have gotten out of the Ayuk deal and probably would have moved on from him this past offseason in the way that they did with Debo Samuel. My logic on that was always, if there was a team willing to pay him the deal like they were in the offseason last year, and by the way, the Patriots would have been a great landing spot for him, right? Would have had a better quarterback than I think he thought. He thought that would have been a bad spot to go and play with Drake May. Would have had a different coach, but Vrabel would have been there this year. The Steelers wanted him. Maybe Washington wanted him last year. I think the thought was on the Niner front that if they were on the hook for some money and some teams were willing to trade for him and pay him that money this year, this is, of course, the offseason of last year, that if they got another productive year out of him, they might have been able to move him at the same price point for some value. All that said, I'm not convinced Juwan's gone, because I don't think Juwan wants out or wanted out. I think he just wanted to be compensated better for the season that he had. And I think a lot of us looked at that and said, well, you were compensated before last year. The situation just played out differently, but you had a little leverage and it played in his way, in his direction. But that's going to be a shallow room entering next season. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, maybe even Kendrick Bourne, and then a few draft picks. We'll see what Watkins ends up being for them. But that's going to be a focus for sure this offseason.
And I believe Demarcus Robinson is under contract.
I think so too,
for next season. So I think he would probably be back in the mix. Yeah, Jacob Cowan can't anticipate anything from him in terms of being a carrier. I think you missed that first year basically, and you're up against it. You miss a second year, and all of a sudden there's some real potential for trouble. You're in Danny Gray territory if you once you miss that second year. Going into the third, so we'll have to see there. But yeah, it just kind of struck me because I think Ayuk, we can all agree, is gone. Jennings, I would have said, is gone. 2 months ago, a month ago. But I think it's interesting because he is not going to cost nearly as much as Brandon Ayuk has cost the 49ers. But they are, and I know a lot of the speculation, and it's November 30th, so the draft is still 4 or 5 months away. Yeah. But I know there's a belief that the Niners are going to spend an early pick on a receiver that could come in and be playable. And I'm just thinking, why would you? And maybe you need to do that anyway. But with Pearsall and his ability to be productive when he's on the field, but can you totally trust that he's going to be on the field consistently? It just feels to me like you need one veteran in the room, and we know that veteran in the room is that can be productive is not going to be Ayuk. So maybe it does wind up being Juwan Jennings. I just wonder what internally the back and forth is in terms of how the organization views him, how he views the organization, and is he just playing it out and being a good soldier because he wants to get the heck out of here, or does he truly want to return? And is there a pathway to the Niners being able to give him a little bit of a raise to keep him in a 49er uniform that will keep him happy, that doesn't, completely blow the budget to a point where they don't think it's worth it? Or does he just want to get the heck out as well because he didn't, get the contract bump that he wanted, even though he did get a small bump?
Speaking of Juwan Jennings, did you see this? So remember last week at the end of the game, he got punched in the beans, right?
brutal.
Like brutal.
I know where you're going. This is brutal.
Yeah, this is brutal. Just a bit of news here after the game. So the 49ers last week played against Carolina. Juwan Jennings gets punched like right in the pills, like a full-on punch to the groin. Kyle talked about it after the game. Juwan Jennings is a fiery guy. We saw him last year many times get into it with guys at the end of plays. Juwan Jennings may be one of the only guys who will square up to try to fight after a victory like he did last week. Well, the Browns defensive tackle Shelby Harris today in the locker room, right after the game, he was talking to the media. He kind of went off on Juwan Jennings. Here's Browns DT Shelby Harris on Niners receiver Juwan Jennings.
He's a hoe, and I want that known. Like, I see why he got punched in the nuts, because that's some, like, he says some things that you should not say to another man ever. But, like, I don't respect it because you say that, then run behind your O-line. That's some real soft shit, and I want that known. I see exactly why they punched the nuts. I'm surprised nobody punched him in the jaw yet.
Damn. Wow. Free rent for Juwan Jennings and Shelby Harris. I mean, he wants it known that Juwan's running his mouth. I mean, you get a reputation around the league as a trash talker, and
he's a hoe.
I think sometimes you need that those guys. That said, the term hoe floating around football a lot this weekend. Lane Kiffin having to step to some of that name calling.
Yes, he is. That's not, by the way, where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to Juwan. I thought you were going to Juwan getting fined for the play.
Well, he was fined $12,000. Yeah, and the Lions player, who was it? The Panthers player who hit him was also fined.
Yeah, Trayvon Morig was suspended
a game
Yeah, so he didn't play today as the Panthers beat the Rams. But no, I thought it was, and that I thought was brutal. But the one thing I will say, Jennings does have a bit of a reputation for going too far. Among players, for whatever, there's a reason Juwan Jennings is the guy who's constantly getting into these back and forths with players after the play and darn near getting in fights. It's not nothing. Now I'm with you as far as, hey, maybe, living rent-free and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's clearly something going on. Jennings is definitely one of those guys you love to have on your team, and if he's not on your team, you probably aren't the biggest fan of his. And so that's 2-3 weeks in a row where it seems like he's mixing it up with somebody every week. And again, he's a Niner, so we'll back him. But there's definitely a way that he plays the game that rubs people the wrong way, and the way he blocks until the whistle and through the whistle and after the whistle, and he's somebody that gets under opponent's skin, to be sure.
Well, bummer. 4 catches today for Juwan Jennings, 39 yards and a 7-yard touchdown. Grab his third in the month of November. We'll take a quick break. We'll come on back. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. Niners win at 26-8. They're 9-4 into the bye week on the Sports Leader.
He's a hoe.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. sound right, boys. Sound right, boys.
Yesterday we got here and there was snow all over, or 2 days ago, and then yesterday it was snowing late at night. So I woke up this morning and I was like, all right, it is what it is. We just got to go find a way to win. It doesn't matter how or what. Protect the ball, play within our offense, and let our defense and special teams do their thing also, and be smart. So it didn't matter what it was going to look like. We just got to find a way, and for me as a quarterback, protect the ball and get it done. So that was the mindset.
That was Brock Purdy there. Yeah, no moisture today. No rain, no snow, no sleet, none of that today. I got a video sent to me from a couple of friends who were out in Cleveland for the game. My buddy Cambridge and my friend Tiana in Cambridge was walking through like what looked like a blizzard, and he said, man, I ain't never been in no S like this before. Brock Purdy didn't have to deal with it. No moisture in Cleveland today as they get a win 26-8. They found ways to win as they continue to take advantage of mistakes by the opposition. They're one of the least penalized teams in all of football, and 2 fewer penalties per game over the last 3 coming into this one than they have had all season. The second fewest penalties per game against in the NFL in 2025. So they're a disciplined team for sure. They're not giving extra opportunities to the opposition. When they've made mistakes, they've lost a couple of games, and they haven't gotten stops, primarily against the Rams, who Carolina got some stops against today. They've struggled, but the Niners have found ways to win, and that may be the chief export of this team. Let's get you the drive of today's game, sponsored by El Cerrito Honda. More than just a car dealership, we're family. JD, I'm going to go back to that end of the first half drive. The Niners get the ball with 39 seconds on the clock, 2 incomplete passes, and then a 3rd and 10. Purdy finds Ricky Pearsall for 12 yards. He finds Juwan Jennings for 12. Then their longest play of the game, a 33-yard grab down to the 7-yard line by George Kittle. Here's what it sounded like.
1st and 10, shotgun snap for Purdy. 4-man rush, picked up well. Brock airs it out down the left sideline. Kittle falling for the football, has it ripped out late.
They're going to give it to him.
Down the left sideline at the 8-yard line, pulled in and ripped out of bounds, and the Niners call a timeout.
Props to the Niners for being aggressive there. I thought for sure with the way the wind was going and how it was howling, I thought they needed a lot of yards to get close enough, and they really did. I mean, it was a doink off the post, and then slipped into the in between the uprights for Matt Gay there. But that was the final play of the first half before they kicked the field goal. They were trailing 8-7 after a touchdown by a 10-yard drive that led to a touchdown by the Browns. Was it a 24 or 34-yard touchdown pass there by Shedeur Sanders to Fannin? They get the 2-point conversion, and so the Niners then flipped the script. So the momentum was going the Browns' way, and they were going to get the ball back. That, to me, changed the momentum going into the second half. The Niners then ran away with it, putting up 2 touchdowns and a couple of field goals to close it out.
And we talked about the ability of the 49ers to be able to take advantage of some short fields. That was not a short field drive. That was a normal field drive, and they didn't score the touchdown, but completions of 13, 12, and 33 to set it up. The big one to Kittle. They doink in the field goal, which sometimes you got to get a little lucky. And a 25-yarder you never want to have doink in, but it did doink in. And I think it's a great call as the drive of the game, because if the Niners don't get points there, maybe we're having a little bit of a different conversation about the way the second half plays out. But the Niners able to get the points, get the lead, and then do enough in the big moments defensively to set up some shorts field. They made the Browns brown. They made the Browns brown in the second half, and the Browns brown in the second half, and the Niners able to comfortably win the game. But I'm with you. I think was definitely the most important drive the 49ers had.
if you allow the Browns to Brown, they'll do it. I mean, the muff kick, the fumble on fourth down, they go for it on the 4th and 1 at the Niner 20 when they're down 7-0 and don't get it. They had Malachi Corley just stepped out of bounds after he received that kick at like the 5-yard line. That was bizarre. I had no idea what he was doing. They would have got it like 35 yards further up. It's a 35-yard mistake there by Corley. So just those mistakes.
No, those mistakes for sure, and there was a tidal wave of Browns Browning there after the 49ers put even just a modest amount of pressure on them because, I mean, you said it earlier, and I think you're spot on. The Browns were feeling it. Once the Niners were ahead, I don't know why, because the Niners they'd only scored 10 points, but the Browns were thinking, yeah, we got to go for this 4th and 1 on the 33 while we have the wind at our back and all of that in the third quarter. Kind of an overthink, but you know what? You'll take it if you're the 49ers because it allowed them to seize control of a game that, again, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Can they win in Arizona and beat the Panthers and beat the Browns? Can they run the table in those plus the game coming out of the bye against Tennessee? If you could do that, you're at 10 wins right there with still 3 games to go in the season. That's the best path toward this team getting into the playoffs. And who knows what happens in those other 3 games. Like, you set up those other 3 games with a shot to maybe do something really special. And then, as we were also talking about with Krug, you look at the NFC and it does not look as formidable in comparison to where the Niners are as it did a month ago, even 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, as it stands right now, the Niners are still in 3rd place in the West. They are a game in hand. They've played one more game, I should say, than the 2 teams ahead of them. The Rams will make up that game next week when the Niners are on bye, and Seattle, who are in action. Right now, they're 8-3. They could move to 9-3, just like the Rams. They still have to play each other, and, of course, Seattle plays the Niners here at the end of the season. But when Week 13 closes, the Chicago Bears will be at 9-3 and leading the NFC as the number 1 seed. The Rams sit at number 2 right now. The Eagles at number 3. Then it's Tampa, Seattle, Green Bay, and the 49ers. And that's as high as anybody will go, as no records will change beyond that, except for Seattle could move to 9-3, but they would still be sitting behind the Rams there for the division, as the Rams have the head-to-head as it sits right now. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. We will sign off on the other side as the Niners going to win over the Cleveland Browns, the first time since 1984 that they've won in Cleveland. More to come on the Sports Leader.
49ers have scored all 3 times they've gone to the red zone, 2 touchdowns, and that field goal with 4 seconds left before the half. This is 3rd down and goal from the 8-yard line. Niners have 8 of 13 on 3rd down. Shotgun snap, Purdy looks left, throws left, and a head-high catch made at the V in Cleveland by Jawan Jennings for a 49ers touchdown.
49ers win it in Cleveland 26-8. Jawan Jennings with his 3rd touchdown grab of the month as he's gotten healthier, as well as the offense with Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall returning 3-0 since their return. Though Pearsall not a big impact. Brock Purdy played fairly well today. Pretty mistake-free football by the 49ers. We'll make that the call of the game, sponsored by Merit America. This super opportunity is brought to you by Merit America. Go to meritamerica.org/super and sign up now. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson signing off here, giving you the final thoughts on the 49ers and the Browns. JD, into the bye week, as optimistic as I've been about this team, I think, all season as we say goodbye here to week 13.
Yeah, how can you not be? I mean, 9-4, they handle business these last 3 against Arizona, Carolina, and Cleveland, and now they're set up perfectly coming out of the bye with the one game that I think we would all agree is the game that they have to get and should get against a Tennessee Titans team that's got 1 win on the season. So the way it's all laid out, maybe imperfect, but I think the 49ers have absolutely done the best job they possibly can with what they have to set themselves up here for a stretch run. And now that you've got that bye, much needed for everybody, it has the potential to recalibrate this team, and we'll see. I mean, I love this team at 10-4, assuming they can get that game against Tennessee going into the final 3, which aren't going to be a picnic, but you take your chances. And I just love being able to play those games from a position of advantage to where it will truly feel like those games can only help you. And yes, could hurt you because you probably, to guarantee your spot in the playoffs, need to win one of them and get to 11 wins. But I just love where this team's at and the momentum that they've built up and the ability to play those games. Like, let's see, what this team truly can do because I think they're on an uptick, and some of these other teams, Indy and we'll see where Seattle is. You just don't know. Like, we don't. The Bears are on top of the mountain right now, but you know what? 3 weeks ago Seattle was, and then it was the Rams for a couple of weeks, and now it's Chicago. So 4 weeks from today is when that game against the Bears actually is. Who the heck knows where the Bears are going to be? They got to play the Packers a couple of times between now and then. So I can't give enough credit to the 49ers for the job that they've done, Copes, given all the injuries and all the challenges that this season has had, to be able to be where they are right now with an opportunity to continue to do even better. It's just been first class, I think, for Kyle Shanahan and first class for Robert Saleh and the players who have been healthy in absorbing everything and just making it happen, man. It's been a real quality season already under some adverse circumstances.
Well, the 49ers are 9-4 heading into the bye week, and week 14 as late of a bye week as anybody can have. So they'll have a home stretch here and hopefully get some rest as they get ready for the final 4 games of the season. Tennessee, you've got Chicago, you've got Indianapolis, and you've got the Seattle Seahawks. And actually flip those 2 middle games there. You get the Seahawks at the end of the season. 3 of the final 4 at home. We'll be back with you Sunday, December 14th, ahead of the Niners and the Titans from Levi Stadium at 10 a.m. Myself, Tracy Sandler, and Todd Husak will get you ready for kickoff. We'll check in with JD and Larry Krueger that day as well. Thanks to Kyle Hart today, who was running the board for us. Great work as always, Kyle. Chips McCarthy, who got us all the sound this afternoon, and our guy Tim Webb, our producer of 49er pre- and post-game here on The Sports Leader. Stay tuned to KNBR all week long as Murph and Marcus return tomorrow. Then you got Greg and myself and Derek Papa back in studio for Dirty Work as we open December with a bye week for the 49ers, who are 9-4 after they beat the Cleveland Browns for the first time since 1984 in Cleveland, 26-8. The sports continue only here on The Sports Leader.